Hey, this is Ryan from Web Eminence. In this video, I'm talking about ROAS, R-O-A-S, or Return on Advertising Spend. So ROAS is really a fancy term for a simple concept. It simply measures how many dollars in revenue are returned for every dollar you spend on advertising. So if you were to spend $500 on advertising in 1 month and get $1,000 returned in revenue, that would be a ROAS of 2.00. So in order to effectively calculate ROAS in Google Ads, for example, you would need to be tracking conversion value through your conversions. You'd first need to be tracking conversions, but you'd also need to be tracking the value or the revenue that's generated from those conversions. A lot of people don't do this because it can be a little tricky, or they just get leads from Google Ads and they never really keep track of what revenue comes from those leads. I did another video recently that explains 2 common ways that you can track conversion value in your Google Ads campaigns, which will then allow you to track and calculate the return on advertising spend. So I'll link to that video here and in the description. So in the rest of this video, I'm going to talk about what is a good average number for ROAS for those of you who are already tracking it. And we'll also talk about some of the industry averages. So first we'll look at some experts just from a Google search and see what they say. And then I'll show you some real numbers from some of my Google Ads clients who are successfully tracking conversion value and ROAS. So I first started with a Google search on average return on ad spend, and I did some research on some of these. I did come across some research from Google, and they start off by saying, first, we assume that businesses generally make an average of $2 in revenue for every $1 they spend on Google Ads. So that would be 2.0 for ROAS. If you look at some of these other search results, this one's from salesandorders.com, which was in that Google search, and they say from a study, 2015 study by Nielsen, average ROAS across most industries hovers around 287% or 2.87. And then they have this graph here. It's a little hard to read by industry, like baby, pet, health and beauty, over the counter. It ranges from 2.59 to $3.71 returned. So per dollar spent, so 2.59 to 3.71 ROAS. And then here's one more from Meldium.com. What is a good ROAS? They start off by talking about 2.0 is acceptable, or 2 times. 3.0 is considered a good starting point. And then they talk about how, people like to have 10 times ROAS, which obviously would be great. But 2.0 tends to be average, and I like to get 3 or higher for my clients, and I consider that good. So those are just some averages. You can obviously do your own research and click on all of these links. Just do a Google search and do your own research. But let me show you a few of my clients where we're tracking ROAS. I would say out of all the clients who I manage accounts for, probably 5 to 10%, probably 5% are tracking value. So if we don't track value, we're not able to get a ROAS number. But here are 4 examples for people who are tracking ROAS. This first one is an awning manufacturer, or at least an awning wholesaler. So they're not spending a lot, under $1,000, but you can see they're, like in the last month, they had a $7,500 return on $700 spent. So they had over 10 times ROAS, which is high for them. Last month, you could see it was 6. So it tends to hover between 5 and 10%, which is very good. Probably one of the best numbers I've seen for my clients. Here's another client that is in kind of an info coaching kind of space, where they are spending $2,000 per month, super high volume. You can see 20,000 clicks, 10 cents per click, returned $3,600 on $2,000 spent. So that was 1.78 ROAS. So kind of average, but kind of low. And then they were at 2.13 in the last period. So they're kind of hovering right around that average 2.0 number. It's going to be hard, even though that's average, it's going to be hard for many advertisers to consistently have a positive return on investment at that level. Here's another client that is e-commerce seller of coffee grinders, espresso machines, that kind of stuff. Last period, they had $5,700 returned on 1,750 spent. That is a 3.26 ROAS. Last month, they had 3.66. That's pretty solid. Important thing to realize with ROAS is this is just revenue returned for dollars spent in advertising. Obviously, they had cost of their products sold, so whether or not this is not telling us if they're making money. It's just kind of a measure of how effective the advertising is month to month. So I can kind of see how it changes. If this goes up to 6 next month, that's great. If it goes down to 1, kind of signals to me that there's an issue. And one last advertiser. This one is online seller of large industrial saws. So last month they had $3,100 returned on about $200 spent for 2.68 ROAS. Last month was 1.74. So again, this is hovering around average. Some of these clients might have other things happening offline, like phone calls, other things that are positive. So they might be getting a little bit more value out of this. But this number here for conversion value is just the sales that are coming right off the website. So I have to keep that in mind with some clients, and so will you if you advertise and measure return on advertising spend. But this should just give you a rough idea. 2.0 is probably going to be the average, but many advertisers are going to need to be much higher than that if they're going to make a consistent profit and make Google Ads work for them. If you're interested in letting me manage your account and allowing me to help you maximize this return on advertising spend, feel free to check out my link in the description and we can see if we might be a good fit to work together. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you on the next one.